You know, when I'm feeling insecure, what really helps me? Comparing myself to others. That's healthy and smart.
Wow.
It's not. It's not. Don't do that. Mended light. We have polled our Mended Light community asking them what is the worst advice that you've ever gotten from a therapist, and someone told us that if you're feeling insecure, look around and find the people in the room who are uglier than you.
You know, I like to live by the motto that comparison brings joy. Okay, so I had this conversation with our 6-year-old this morning. He was talking about himself compared to his older sister. And he is a very bright child. And so he was telling me how in some ways he's smarter than his older sister. And he is very bright. But that's not the point, right? And so I said to him, Michael, comparison is the thief of joy. And he said, I don't know what comparison means.
Which hopefully was a humbling experience for him.
Yeah. So we went through it word by word. And I said, well, when you compare yourself to someone else, you are taking your strengths and you are saying, well, how did they measure up against me? Yeah. And he goes, okay.
Or their strengths versus your weaknesses.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we can compare ourselves in all sorts of ways. But that's what he was doing. He was taking his strengths and comparing them against a sibling. And I said, when you take another person and you take their strengths or their weaknesses and you measure them up against your strengths or their weaknesses, it is a thief. And I said, what's a thief? And he goes, to steal. And I said, yes. So when you compare yourself to others, you are stealing your own joy.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh. And so this is what I always followed up with, because he got a house full of kids. They've been doing this to each other for decades, I say. Anyway, so I said to him, Michael, the only person I want you to compare yourself to is the person that you were yesterday. And once again, that was a little bit hard for a 6-year-old to understand, but it's helpful for all of us. Right?
Yeah.
So there is this poem, I think it was written like the 1930s. Anyways, it's Latin. It's called, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, who knows? But it's called Desiderata. And I memorized it when I was a teenager-ish, because I did things like that. I was a nerd. There's a line in there where it says, do not compare yourself to others, because it will cause you to be vain and bitter. Because there will always be those who are greater and lesser than yourself.
Yeah.
And that really, really helped me. I don't know, I was 12, maybe I was 14, but I was young, right? And you go through those ages and stages where you're trying to find where you fit in the world and how you fit and how do you measure up. And always that line would come to me. And so that wasn't something that I struggled with as much. With those insecurities, because anytime I started down that road of comparison, like I stopped myself. But it really hit me on a level that it had never hit me before, even though I have said this dozens and dozens and dozens of times to our children and to other people, that comparison is the thief of joy. But when I said it differently this morning, and I said, when you compare yourselves to other people, you are stealing your own joy.
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful. And I have a question for you about that, because Alicia is a very competitive person, and you talk about worth ties, right?
Yeah.
That at least in your history, you've gained a lot of worth, or you've tied your worth to being the best.
Yeah.
Being the best at something.
I was good at that.
You were good at that. Tell me about your growth journey there, because competition can be a beautiful thing. Right.
Well, it's healthy as long as it's done in a healthy way.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Because we're talking about comparison as a thief of joy, and yet all of us been socialized and just imbibed these messages that your worth is relative. It's relative to the worth of another person. Your accomplishments relative to this person's. Your attractiveness relative to somebody else's attractiveness. Your intelligence versus somebody else's intelligence, to the point where our 6-year-old, who never learned that from us, is already saying, look, I'm smarter than my older sister in this area or that area. So the question I have for you is, when it comes to wanting to be the best,
Right.
how do you do that in a healthy way?
Well, and there's certain personality types who thrive off of that,
Yeah.
even in a fun way, even in a game. We have another son who's like, hey, can we compete to see who can do it the fastest or who can do it the best?
Yeah, who can
And-
hold their breath the longest? Like anything can become competition.
Right. And then we have a daughter who just wants everybody to feel loved and accepted and comfortable. So when her brothers are trying to create a competition out of nothing, she's like, red flags and angry and,
Well, the boys are like you, and our girls are like me in that sense, because our
Yeah.
girls are like, I don't care, it's fine. Are we having
Yeah.
a good time? Are we getting
Yeah.
along? And the boys are like, who cares about getting along? I want to be the best.
I would say competition is healthy as long as good moral character is associated with that, right? So if that looks like good sportsmanship on a team, which is everybody tried their best and everybody did their best and then good job.
Yeah.
Or if that looks like just being the best version of myself. So we have another son. All the kids are coming into play. His oldest son, he's also highly intelligent.
Yeah.
And he likes to compare himself to everyone.
Yes, he does. Exhaustingly so.
And tell you how he measures up. And there will be his growth and his learning opportunity about how that, steals his joy. But he spends a lot of time in his math classes, helping the other students, and, and tutoring them and stuff like that, which that is a wonderful thing to do. But when you're getting your worth and your belonging and your value as a person
From superiority.
that's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, because what happens when someone comes along who is superior to you, you lose your worth.
Right.
Right? You lose that sense of self-respect and self-esteem that comes with that. And I look at the advice of this therapist as this therapist clearly ties worth to appearance and is telling the client, find the people who are uglier than you so that you can feel good about yourself, which is terrible advice. Because first of all, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, it's a cliche statement, but it's absolutely 100% true. Second of all, that's not mental health. To see yourself as superior to others, that's just arrogance. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance is I'm superior to others and I need to put them down to lift myself up.
Right.
Oh, even in my mind. Oh, you're uglier than me. That's not mental health. That's just smugness. That's just being an SOB. Confidence is I know who I am, I like who I am, and I want to lift others up as well.
Right.
And that's what I would steer that client towards.
Well, and my counter advice, we are all of us at times where we feel insecure, some more than others. But in that time of insecurity, looking around and saying, who can I serve? Who can I support?
Yeah.
And granted, all of these traits and these talents and these gifts, they're all in a spectrum, right? Of being balanced, right? Our confidence is being balanced, our need to serve, or our desire to serve, like that's balance. You can take it too far,
Yeah.
and it can only be about service, and it can only be about others, right? But my advice would be in those moments of insecurity where you don't feel like you belong or you don't feel like you have a friend, who can you serve?
Yeah.
Who can you support?
Yeah, confidence comes from right action and from doing right by other people. Labeling anybody as ugly, even in your own mind, doesn't help anybody, and it doesn't help society. And you've seen these TED Talks by the woman the internet has labeled the world's ugliest woman, and she is a powerhouse of lifting others and loving others and not judging others. And to me, she is one of the most beautiful people on the planet.
Yeah.
I've met people who were classically beautiful. In fact, by the time we started dating, I initially wasn't super drawn to you.
Not super.
A little bit. Because I'd had experience with people who could be models. You did some modeling, have that look about them. Like there was a lot of shallowness and a lot of self-absorption and just rudeness. And I was looking for someone who was truly beautiful here, which sounds cheesy and cliche, but it's true. And when we were dating and people commented to me because they valued you on your outward appearance and then like threw some of that onto me, like, hey, there must be something great about you to have acquired a woman of this beauty. And they would tell me how beautiful you were. And you remember what I would tell them? Mm-hmm. What would I say?
Yeah.
I'd say...
She's okay.
No, no, not that.
No.
I do that to mess with people now. When people are like, your wife's really pretty, I'm like, is she? And I'm like, like, I guess if you squint when you look at her,
Cross your eyes a little
cross
bit.
your eyes a little bit. No, but what I tell people is when they say how beautiful you are, I'd say try to see past that.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much more to her. Like, I didn't fall in love with her because of her appearance. And it's true. And I have known our whole marriage that if something happened to dramatically change your appearance, that I would still love you. And if something happened to dramatically change my appearance, what, you'd be happy? What is this?
Oh, no. I was going to say, gosh, I sure hope so.
I would.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Yes, you're welcome. As you said, no matter what, there's always going to be somebody who's better than you at something and someone who's worse than you at something. And one of my old professors, Margaret, she used to say to me, I'm not a better therapist than you. I've just been doing it longer. Mm-hmm. You know? And there are people who look up to me now on our team who've told me that they look up to me. And I'm thinking, oh, when you're where I'm at, you're going to be so much better than me. Like, this is just a time thing. That there's really no reason to derive our worth from that. That we should derive our worth from our existence. The fact that we exist as human beings makes us, like everybody else, someone with strengths and someone with weaknesses.
Right.
And someone who is worthy of respect and love. Period. And if you're feeling insecure, the fact you need to remind yourself of is, I have strengths, I have weaknesses. If other people deserve love and respect, then so do I. Speaking of judging people based on their appearance and not really getting to who they are and what their worth is, there was a therapist who said, you are sending off the wrong signals. In other words, how you dress and how other people treat you is your fault, not their responsibility. And boy, did we go to town on that one.
So much fun.
When you are feeling insecure, what helps you? What is a healthy alternative to this piece of terrible advice that we explored today? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep shining, folks. We need your light. And there it is. There's the video we were telling you about. Watch it.
Clickety click.